Greetings. Prince Harry and wife wants Commonwealth to acknowledge its colonial past to fight racism. Prince Harry of the United Kingdom wants the Commonwealth to acknowledge its colonial past and role in slavery, as it is crucial to moving forward and fighting racial injustice. This is a thoughtful opinion about Prince Harry, but it's just an opinion because Prince Harry does not have the gall to fight against the Commonwealth, against the United Kingdom, in order to make sure that racism ends, or in order to make sure that the Commonwealth acknowledges its past, or acknowledges what they have done when it comes to colonization and racism. Prince Harry also stated that we could not deny or ignore that the fact that all of us have been educated to see the world differently. If you want to use that. But Prince Harry, I would say this: during colonization, British companies control over 1 trillion worth of resources in Africa. And during colonization, you had the British or United Kingdom in Africa, present in Africa during the period of colonization. And during that period, when they were present in Africa, tapping out the resources of Africa, they took over 1 trillion US dollars yearly. Now move forward. We're now in a period of neo-colonization where somehow African nations have their independence, but it's not true independence because many European countries like Britain or United Kingdom, France, and other nations still have their hands in the continent of Africa, tapping out the resources because they need those resources to enrich themselves. At the present rate, compared to the period of colonization, we don't have as many citizens of the United Kingdom in Africa. But guess what? They still tap over 1 trillion US dollars yearly from Africa, 37 countries in Africa. So they're still making money, despite the fact that they're not using the colonized method to tap out the resources. They still control many of the resources in Africa that gives them wealth up to over 1 trillion US dollars. And you guys says Africa is poor. And over 1 trillion dollars they take yearly. What do they give? Little aids to help Africa, to help the continent Africa. They tap out so much money out of Africa and give little change, chicken change, in order to help Africa, saying that they're helping in giving aids. And you think that these people are going to give out all that wealth, that power to end racism, or to acknowledge the fact that they played a role during the period of colonization and slavery? Nah, it's not going to happen. So Prince Harry, stop playing mind games, because you're actually helping in playing mind games with Africans. Why? As if you're trying to do something, or at least as if the United Kingdom is going to try to do something to better racism or to end racism, because they're not ending racism or admitting to the colonization of African states and tapping out the resources. Will also mean that they have to end what they're doing, but they don't want to end what they're doing, because what they're doing makes them rich and powerful, and they love being rich and powerful so that they can control the world. Black people in the world don't seem to get this. You need power to end racism. Begging to get power to end racism, or begging to those who have power to end racism, will not end racism. The only method, the only way to end racism is to have power, or continue begging. As you know, Africa, they have so much more. They don't know what to do with it. They just give it to countries like United Kingdom, France, that takes over 500 billion US dollars out of 14 countries in Africa. Those 14 countries starved, and many of the citizens die. Meanwhile, that 14 countries giving out 500 billion US dollars to France. And that's just one of the country that is tapping out the resources of Africa. Then you have the Commonwealth, you have United Kingdom still tapping out over 1 trillion US dollars yearly. And then they give chicken change through AIDS. Africans, you are suffered. They talk about this guy, Hush Puppy, who has used 419 to make money or whatever. The level of 419, international 419, that the United Kingdom, that France and other superpower nations in the world use in the continent of Africa to achieve the financial or the economic resources that they need out of the continent of Africa, is in another level where even blacks cannot comprehend, even Africans cannot understand. The guy called Hush whatever, that 419 guy, that's what he did is nothing compared to what the United Kingdom is doing in the continent of Africa. It's not compared to what France is doing in the continent of Africa, taking out 500 billion US dollars yearly. And then they tell you to depopulate your continent. They tell you to be gay so that you can help to depopulate your continent. Meanwhile, they tap out the resources to enrich themselves. Racism in this world can never end. It's the same thing the Jewish community is doing to blacks in the United States when they make statements, oh, that's anti-Semitic. That's anti-Semitic. They say that. Oh no, you cannot say that. You have to apologize. Making a football player to apologize for speaking up when blacks in the United States are being gunned down. by police brutality, racism. And when the great teacher, the great inspirator, the great motivator of black people speaks to encourage blacks in the United States to unite, to stop killing each other. The great Minister Louis Farrakhan said, oh, he's a bigot, he's a racist, he's an anti-Semite. Why? Because he inspires blacks to think and act for the interests of black people, which is what the Jewish people are doing for the Jewish people. That which is why they are one of the richest community in the United States. But when you have great leaders like Mr. Louis Farrakhan speaks to the black people, that's being anti-Semitic. Come up with ways to bash blacks, not to unite, to frighten them. But remember this, African Americans. It was the Germans that killed the Jews. It was the Germans that murdered the Jews, not blacks. So using anti-Semitic gesture towards black people is useless. It's useless. Because you guys never killed the Jewish people, so why should they consider you to be anti-Semitic in the first place? Why? That's just a tactic to control the mindset of black people so that they can put them in places where they want them to be, where they won't be able to rise. They want to control their potential so that they can use that potential to enrich themselves. Same thing the United Kingdom does in Africa, taking over 1 trillion US dollars yearly. Same things that France does to 14 French African countries, taking over 500 billion. Britain is taking over 1 trillion US dollars yearly. France takes 500. And you think by making this speech or by making this statement, Prince Harry of United Kingdom means you have the interest of black people, or by getting married to a lady that has about 70% or 65% white DNA in him and 25 or 35 black DNA. I don't know the percentage. She looks more white than black. And you think that she is black. And because of that, you have the right, you have the authority, you have the privilege to speak for the interests of black people who have been maltreated for so long. To encourage the United Kingdom to acknowledge their past. Acknowledging their past would change nothing. But what they are doing in the continent of Africa, taking out over 1 trillion US dollars yearly to enrich themselves so that they can be in place in the position of power to dictate to the rest of the world. Black people don't need whites to speak for black people. Black people need to create the power structure that will be in the defense of black people. That's what they did. They need the United States of Africa. so that they could push out France completely out of Africa and push out the Commonwealth completely out of Africa and not being part of that institution that enslaved them in the first place. But no, since they have the power, the United Kingdom, France, and other superpower have the power to tell the lesser countries to do what is best for their own interests, rather than letting them do what is best for themselves, rather than letting the blacks do what is best for themselves. They want to in the middle of it so that they benefit. Life is war. Life is war. And there are all types of war being fought in order to be in control, in order to benefit those who are in power. And when black people don't learn to understand that, all that wars they're fighting among themselves, Christian, Muslim, this and that, in the continent of Africa or out of the continent, would not benefit black people. The only way is to do what the great mind, the great Marcus Messiah Garvey started, the United States of Africa, and connected internationally where blacks are, so that they will have a voice, a powerful voice, to speak for their own interests without the Jewish community or the German community or the United Kingdom community or whatever community that's non-black should not have a voice to speak over them. But I know, just like you guys have been killing many of our great leaders who try to do stuff, and you will not stop. Racism will not stop. It will not. It will never stop until those who have the balls to create the power structure for black people in the world and use that power structure for the benefit of black people, then you can think or see the end of racism towards black people. Racism is happening to black people all over the world because they don't have the power to do anything about it. And a prince who have decided to give up his princehood can't do shit to change the outcome of racism towards black people in the United Kingdom or around the world. It's that simple. To change racism, black people need the power to do that. And the power doesn't lie in LGBTQ. It doesn't lie in Black Lives Matter. It lies in Pan-African philosophy, Pan-African, global Pan-African philosophy, global Pan-African ways of thinking and acting. That's where it lies on. But those in power will not give the chance for that to rise, because when that does rise, it shows the end of those who are in power. One, you could look at it that way, or at least a restriction of their power. British companies now control Africa's key mineral resources, notably gold, platinum, diamond, copper, oil, gas, 101 companies listed on the London Stock Exchange, having mining operation in 37 sub-Saharan African countries. They collectively control over $1 trillion. $1 trillion. That's how much they control yearly. And they say Africa is not rich. The richest continent in the world, China, taps in and gets their own resources. United Kingdom gets its own resources and wealth. France gets its own resources. What is left? Chicken change that has been passed down for the African leaders.